I've been saying Gabby is sketchy as hell. I wouldn't be surprised if she was running this entire operation. Hi, my name is Nshalati. Welcome to also the book club. So today, I think this is probably my quickest turnaround time for these videos for My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. I am doing a chapter-to-chapter breakdown, if you don't know. And I have covered chapters 1 to 42 at this particular point. And I think by the time I release this video, chapters 37 to 42 should be out. It should be out because technically it's coming out in a few hours. And unless I become a magician, there's no ways I will be releasing this one until the other one has come out. Anyway, as per usual, we're going to be doing a recap at this particular timestamp. We will then get to talking about chapters 43 to 52, I believe, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. This time around, we're going to be doing my updated suspects list, because every single time I come here, I change who I think is at the top of my list. But technically, the person I think is always at the top of my list has stayed on the top of my list since the beginning of the book. So if you have been enjoying the series along with me, stick around while we chat about those chapters for today. And don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to comment what your theories are as we near closer to the end of the story. And then don't forget to subscribe and share the video with all your friends. So in this recap, we're just going to talk about a few things that happened in the last batch of chapters. The main things that happened is that we found a body on the beach, and we were told that the body was found by Diane Harris, who is the art gallery owner. We are still unable to identify whose body it is, but right now we think it's OG Eden's body, because in chapter 19, we saw her get pushed, or rather we were being pushed as Eden in the story. So we think she's the one whose body has washed up onto the beach, and that's the body that everybody's talking about in town. Next thing we found out is that Harrison has a lot of things that he's hiding. He's hiding the tunnels, he's hiding Eden's phone that he had a tracker on, and he's also hiding from the police. And the main reason why he told us he was hiding from the police is because he doesn't want to make any more mistakes. And speaking to the police, he might get tripped up and say something that he shouldn't. So he is still, at that particular point, the most suspicious person in the story. We also saw that Carter and Birdie slept together again. But we know why. Just check out my video to see why. But we know why. And then lastly, Carter, following his instincts, as Birdie had told him, decided to go and visit Gabby, which is Harrison and Eden's daughter, and found out that Inside Eden is posing as the main caretaker for Gabby in the manor, in the mental unit. And that blew my mind, because finally we found out where Inside Eden went. Because in the last few videos, I've been saying, I hear that Eden died, right? I hear that Eden got pushed off a cliff. But then where's Inside Eden? Because we had Eden that was inside the house saying she's the owner of the house. And then we also had Outside Eden telling us that, what the hell? That's my house. And then she gets pushed. But then what happened to Inside Eden if OG Eden, which is the Eden we'd been following, was not the real Eden? Where's the one who was inside the house telling us that Outside Eden was the imposter? So finally, we got our answer to that question. Whew, exciting stuff, exciting stuff. In chapter 43, we go back to Birdie, and Birdie has just woken up. And this is the night after her and Carter slept together. And in this part of the story, she's also thinking about how every time she wakes up, it's one day closer to the day that she's going to die, as estimated by Thanatos, and in general reality, because we're all going to die. And she's telling us that maybe that's also another reason that she did sleep with Carter. She slept with him because she wanted to feel like there might be somebody who would miss her when she's gone. Sure, she has Sunday, but Sunday is a dog. And everybody wants to be remembered by other human beings on this earth when they die. And she was hoping if she did sleep with Carter, have a connection with him, he might be somebody who thinks about her past her death. And then afterwards, she goes to get breakfast at an open cafe. At the cafe, the barista is like, don't fret about the suicide that happened yesterday, because Birdie then explains, I haven't eaten since yesterday lunch and haven't been sleeping well. We know why she hasn't been sleeping well. She's been shocking and barking. Sorry. But barista goes, don't worry about the suicide. Everybody kind of finds himself in that point sometimes, and the world has a lot of sad people, so something like suicide is not like a big thing. Then Birdie gets taken aback by that particular statement, because it's a bit of a shocking statement for somebody to have such indifference towards something as serious as suicide. So she even says, maybe the world would be less sad if people cared a bit more. And also, we remember that Birdie's mom committed suicide. So obviously, she has a bit of a touch and go relationship with suicide. So that's why we are sympathizing with Birdie in with regards to this particular storyline, because she has a personal connection to this kind of tragedy. The barista also then says she saw Eden walk up the cliff, but she's not really sure it's Eden, but who else could it be? Because it matches the situation that everybody in town knows. So everybody in town knows the lady Eden Fox went up a cliff and she possibly jumped. Whereas this lady goes, I saw somebody walking in that direction. I didn't really recognize her. And because Eden is technically new in town, so obviously she's thinking it must be Eden who walked up the cliff. But don't fret, you can just ask Old Stu, because Old Stu was walking his dog, as we were told in like chapter 20. Yeah, in like chapter 20. So Birdie says, okay, no problem. I'll just go speak to Old Stu. Afterwards, she leaves the cafe, she goes back to the pub, and she finds that Maddie has opened up the pub and asks Maddie, like, just because she actually never checked this, she asks Maddie if there's any jealous girlfriend that's keeping Carter up late for work, because he hasn't been back. And we know why he hasn't been back. He's still at the mental unit that Gabby, the daughter, stays at. So Birdie's just trying to find out where he could be and possibly if he has a girlfriend. And then Maddie says, no jealous girlfriend to worry about, just his wife. Again, this man disappoints us again and again and again. Every time I think, you know what, he's a good guy and he wants to protect all these women, even though I think that is a very disgusting way of being with other people and a very disgusting reason to be with people. I'm like, I give him the benefit of the doubt, and then we find out he has an entire wife, so he cheats. Don't really like this guy. In chapter 44, we then go back to Carter. He is still at the Manor, which is the name of the mental unit that Gabby Wolf is staying at. And he has just seen who he thinks is Eden Fox dressed as a nurse. He, instead of running to go catch up with Eden to ask her what she's doing at the Manor and what's going on and why is she going by the name Mary and all of that stuff, he just waits because he remembers advice that Birdie had given him, which was, but I hear DCI Bird's voice in my head. Sometimes less is more when questioning a suspect. Wait, watch, and above all else, listen. So he does this because you never really know someone's reaction if they come into a situation they don't expect weird things to be happening in. So that's why he wants her to come to them as opposed to him bombarding her and like catching her off guard. So he then says to Ingrid, no, you can continue speaking. When Mary gets here, I'll speak to her. Then in this conversation, Ingrid, the nurse, is telling us that Gabby does whisper, but the way she whispers is very, very creepy because the way her voice sounds seems very small and very broken. And she explains this is probably because her vocal cords might have been damaged from the lack of use of them. Afterwards, Ingrid also explains that the only reason everybody knows that Gabby is actually speaking is because Mary has been recording Gabby speak, and she is recording Gabby on a little Walkman. So let me take you back a few chapters. When Bertie and Carter were going through the house where Harrison stays with his wife, she noticed that there was an old Walkman sitting in the house. And it was like, that's a very strange thing to keep around. And then again, we're being told that this Walkman, or maybe a different type of Walkman, or a different Walkman entirely, is being used to record Gabby Wolf. So now the question is, are those two Walkmans the same Walkman, or is it a different Walkman? Are they using them to record? Are they using them to communicate? What is going on between Harrison and Mary having these Walkmans? Afterwards, while we're still waiting for Mary to eventually make it to Gabby's room, Ingrid, the nurse, tells us that Mary's very, very new to this particular facility. She had been working for an old lady who lived near the coast. So if you haven't been paying attention, let me tell you something. Hope Falls is by the coast. That's why they have a beach. And so I'm thinking that Mary used to work for Olivia Bird. I don't want to speculate past this, but I think for now, Mary used to work for Olivia Bird, the grandmother. And after working for the grandmother, apparently she just showed up to the manor and gave them her CV, and then they put her on probation, and everybody liked her. But the one person who liked her the most and that Mary got along with really, really well was Gabriella Wolf. So it's starting to feel very coincidental that around the time that Olivia Bird, the grandmother, passes away, this new person walks into the manor looking for a job. What I don't know at this particular point, because the book doesn't tell us, is whether Mary came to the manor just before Gabby, right? Or was it after Gabby arrived at the manor? Because if it was before, then we might have a bit of a situation that I can't understand at this point. Or if she came afterwards, is it a coincidence that that Gabby came and then Mary came? And since we know that she was playing Eden, is there a bit of a relationship with the three of them? Possibly. I also had the question, right? Could Mary have been the person who killed Olivia Bird, the grandmother, for Thanatos? Because we already know there's a relationship between Harrison and Mary. We just don't know what predates that relationship. Is it the death of the grandmother, or is it Thanatos and then the grandmother, and then the death of the grandmother? We don't know. I don't know at this point. I don't know even throughout the rest of these chapters, so I don't know. Afterwards, Mary finally gets to the door, right? Finally gets to Gabby's door and walks into Gabby's apartment. And then Gabby stops painting and looks at Mary and says, "Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run." I'm starting to think that Gabby set this whole thing up because this bitch can talk when she needs to talk. I'm sorry, I'm calling an 18-year-old child, but what do you mean? She says run, and do you know what happens next? Eden stares at Gabrielle, then stares at me, then she runs. Because she's actually Mary, and Carter knows Mary as Eden Fox. So she needs to run. Something is going on here, and I don't want to freak out. I don't want to lose my mind yet. We're still early on in the video. I'm just saying that this girl is acting shady as hell. I'm not surprised she ran away. She's in trouble. She was acting like Eden Fox in town for weeks or days. I don't know how long she'd been acting as Eden Fox, but she did. And that's why all of these things will contradict you. You had a situation where you had the most friendliest Eden Fox, and then you have the recluse Eden Fox, the one we'd been following. So all of a sudden, when inside Eden, is suddenly cornered by Carter, she has to run. She's been acting like someone else. I'm not surprised she ran. I'm really not surprised she ran. But like, it's too early for me to go a bit insane yet. So let's continue. Okay, chapter 45, we have another tape transcription. This tape transcription is a conversation that happened between Carter as well as Old Stu. Old Stu's the person who had the dog and was walking his dog when he saw Eden Fox walking up the cliff. So instead of Birdie going to ask Old Stu all the questions that Carter probably asked, we're going through the transcription. In this particular transcription, Old Stu tells us that he saw Eden Fox and she was very, very distracted and she looked very, very sad. He even says he saw she had a red nose as if she was crying and she didn't hear him when he had said hello, right? He's speculating maybe it was because she had earbuds in her ear, but I don't think that's the case. I think she was like overwhelmed with what had been happening in the last, I guess, 12 hours at that particular point. Afterwards, Old Stu gets really, really upset and frustrated with Carter and kept saying, dude, stop asking me these questions over and over again. I've already told you this. Why are you bugging me about this lady? Why don't you just speak to the other woman? And then Carter goes, wait, what other woman? You never told me about another woman. And he's like, yeah, there was another woman walking up the cliff also just after I saw Eden Fox. He even says, I told you there was another woman who ran up the hill after her. She is far more likely to have seen what happened. The reason he says this is that he saw Eden Fox walk past him. And then afterwards, he kept walking, and when he turned, she had vanished. So he's assuming between the time that he saw Eden Fox and probably this other woman, she would have had a better vantage point of what Eden did or what was happening with Eden while he was still walking down, because by the time he looked up, she had disappeared. So obviously he doesn't know what's happening. So that's why he says, go speak to the other woman. Then I had the idea that maybe the other woman could have been Mary, the same woman who was acting as Eden Fox. And the reason I think that she could be a potential suspect for this particular situation is because she was in Spyglass. We know she was in Spyglass because she was in Spyglass when Eden Fox, OG Eden, the one we had been following, was knocking on her door, and the person who opened the door was Eden Fox / Mary. She has access to Spyglass. What if she took Harrison's phone or someone's phone and texted that phone that Eden found in the car, and is the reason why Eden was at the cliff when she was said to be pushed over the cliff? Because Eden got a text message and we don't know who sent the text message. It could be Harrison. It could be the other woman who I think is Mary. We don't know at this point. So I'm thinking Mary could be our best bet because definitely Harrison is not a woman. So Mary could definitely be the other person. I don't know who else it could be because we don't have other information. It definitely wouldn't be Diane. The reason I say it definitely couldn't be Diane is because Old Stu has been living in town for a very long time. So in as much as he's old, he might still not be, he would still be able to notice Diane, because they've lived in this particular town for a very long time and everybody knows everyone. That's something that keeps coming up in the story. Everyone else in town knows everyone. So obviously I'm thinking Mary might not have been somebody that Old Stu noticed, because if Mary was the person who was looking after Olivia Bird, the grandmother, then she spent a lot of time with Olivia Bird, the grandmother, in the house and not actually going out. So the chances of her coming across other people in town like Old Stu might have been slim. So maybe he didn't recognize her because of that. But with Diane, everybody knows Diane. She even has a legend around her. So I'm thinking that it couldn't be Diane. But there's something that Diane did say that I don't know how it fits into the story, but I feel the need to say it. When Diane was being questioned after finding the body, she said something that seems strange to me. I don't know how it works and I don't know how it ties into the story, but hear me out. She says, must have washed up on the shore when I was in the sea, meaning the body. Strange though, because the tide is going out. Did she expect the body to get dragged out? Or because she knows these waters, she's in the water all the time. So did she expect the body to get dragged out? If she did, why? What is her motivation? That's why she is one of the people I suspect are involved in this particular conspiracy without having any like real proof. I think because of the things she says and the things people know about her, not necessarily coming from her specifically, but about her from what the town is saying about her, I'm really questioning why would she make such a comment? Sometimes you need to look further than the actual line, and that's what I'm doing. It could be like overthinking this, but that's how you work with these kinds of books. And then if it all comes together and this is a piece of the puzzle, we've put it down on the table. If it's not, then it's not. It's just a book. We reach here. In chapter 46, we go back to Birdie, and Birdie is furious. At this point, Birdie has just found out that Carter has a wife, and also there's another woman that Carter didn't tell Birdie about. We don't know what his reasons for not telling Birdie were, especially about the other woman that might have seen Eden Fox, but we're still trying to figure that out as we go through the story. But I think she's a little more upset at the fact that he has a wife and she didn't know this. And not because she loves Carter like that. No. She's constantly reiterated that the reason why she didn't want to get with Carter was because he's so much younger, she is his boss and stuff like that. But the reason she did end up sleeping with him on both occasions was because she was lonely and not necessarily looking for Carter because Carter is the best thing in the world. Of course not. So we have a lot of that happening. Afterwards, Birdie goes to speak to Old Stu. This is so that she can find out more information about this other woman. When she gets there, she finds an old man looking very surfer dude and very, very cute. Afterwards, she realizes he also has a bunch of dogs, which is, again, cute. But one thing that stands out from their interaction is the fact that Old Stu's like, I didn't talk about any other woman. And then Birdie and I are very, very confused because did Carter make up this other woman or is Old Stu confused? Because they call him Old Stu because he's old and he's a bit, he might be forgetful. So we're now confused as to how bad of a cop is Carter. Because if he's making up evidence, then we have a real problem. More than just incompetent, we're dealing with a fucking liar. And we don't need that in the police force, especially Birdie's police force, So that's the last thing we hear from this chapter. In chapter 47, we go back to Carter after he's just watched Mary run away. He tries to chase her down, but then she gets away, gets in her car, and almost drives over Carter. He gets out the way and he runs back to Ingrid, which is the other nurse, and says, I want you to tell me now why exactly Eden Fox is acting as a nurse in this place. And Ingrid is like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but you're no longer going to speak to Gabby anymore. You have upset her, so she needs to be sedated. So we have, but you are not going to talk to that girl ever again. And he's like, fine, whatever. But tell me why Eden Fox is parading around this place as if she is a nurse. And Ingrid goes, but that's not Eden Fox. That's not Gabby's mother. She is an employee in this particular facility. And she goes, let me show you. And they go to the computer so that Ingrid could show Carter Mary's employee file. Afterwards, Carter just realizes, oh my gosh, maybe I was wrong. He also realizes that Gabby is sketchy as hell because why did she tell Mary to run? I think this girl is more conscious than everybody gives her credit for. He even says she's not as innocent or as broken as everyone else seems to think. And I was like, definitely. I've been saying Gabby is sketchy as hell. I wouldn't be surprised if she was running this entire operation. I'm joking. But I'm just like, I'm not shocked that she would instruct Mary, who is her caretaker, somebody that she likes well enough to start speaking in front of. And other instances of Gabby being sketchy is when she said, "She is not my mother." That time, I knew from that moment alone, I knew Gabby was shit. I knew it. I knew it. Also, not speaking when Carter was questioning her, but being able to say, "Run, rabbit, run." I knew this girl was sketchy as hell. And if we come back and we find out that everything is happening because of her, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because this girl is just acting mad. Is acting mad. It's as if she's trying to reconstruct her home, manipulating people. I don't know how. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there into the so that you guys hear me and be like, maybe have your own thoughts about what's happened. After all of this, Carter then thinks about everything that he knows about this particular case, all the people involved, and what exactly could be true or what could be a lie. He's rethinking the fact that he kissed Eden Fox, and not because he kissed somebody, but rather Eden Fox herself, right? Did he really kiss Eden Fox? Did Eden Fox even like him because he really thinks he liked her and he's really like obsessed about that particular point? I think he's more upset about that more than anything else. And then he's also wondering who the hell the real Eden is, and afterwards whether or not Eden is even dead, because he saw Eden running away. Well, he saw somebody he thinks is Eden. And given all the facts that are being thrown at him, he's starting to reevaluate that entire situation. And also, he notices that Harrison was trying to protect Gabby. And that might be at the center of this entire thing. Next, we get back to chapter 48. In chapter 48, we follow Harrison, and Harrison is just telling us about his guilt. So he's telling us about how guilty he feels about where Gabby actually ended up. So Gabby is in a mental unit because she suffered a traumatic accident when she was 8 years old. So he knows, as with all the testing that has gone into determining this, that Gabby still presents and thinks she is 8 years old. Even Ingrid in the previous chapters confirms this. Furthermore, he explains to us why he feels guilty. He believes that he should have taken care of Gabby when she was 8. If he just had more time at home with her, then he would have been able to look after Gabby better, knowing very well that he believed that Eden was never a good parent. Eden was never one of those parents who would look after their child really well. The reason he says this is he's always known that Eden has been distracted. Her mind was always elsewhere when they were together, when she was looking after Gabby. So he knows that he shouldn't have left Gabby with someone that distracted, but he was trying to build the Natos. At the time, the Natos didn't even have a name. He was trying to find investors, more funding for the business so that they could at least get into initial trials, which they had, but they could have only done that with all the work that he put into showing the investors at the time what kind of business he was putting together. Afterwards, he tells us that he also feels guilty about what has happened. I think he is referring more to what has happened to Eden, like the fact that she might be dead. I think he also feels guilty for that. And then he says, but I'm doing it all for her. The crazy thing about this pronoun game that keeps being played in this particular book is that now her is the daughter. In the last batch of chapters, her was her who was swimming. That was Diane. Now it's all for her. Her now seems like Gabby, which I'm starting to believe is the biggest motivator for whatever's happening. In as much as I've had all these theories, I've come here, I've retracted all about I don't care. But this one seems like the most important. That's funny because I said that the last time. Anyway, I think he's doing all of this for her. So I'll have some evidence for this But I really think that the real person he's doing all of this stuff for is Gabby. Afterwards, he tells us that he's just going to sit in his house and think about everything that's going on, what his next steps are. He even says, so I'm sitting in the dark in a house I didn't want to live in, wondering how it came to this. And then I had a few questions because this is such an innocuous statement. But when you sit and think about it, the way I think about things, then you start to wonder what the fuck is going on. So first thing is, why is he telling us this is not the house that he wanted to live in? So why did he move to Spyglass? Number one, why was it his idea to move to Hope Falls, as OG Eden told us in the first few chapters? Why was he the one adamant about them moving to Hope Falls and subsequently moving into Spyglass? Is it because he wanted to be closer to the manor? Because the manor is the mental unit that Gabby stays in, and I think it's like I think it's 3 hours. I don't know how far it is from Hope Falls, but I think it's a lot closer than London is from that mental unit. So is it because he wanted to be closer to Gabby, or did somebody force him to move into specifically Spyglass? Or was Spyglass the house that was open because they killed the person who was living there, which was Birdie's grandmother? Or did somebody force him to come to Hope Falls? Period. So what is going on here? And then I had another thought with regards to this whole, it's all for her, it's all for her. I'm wondering if Mary started taking care of Gabby and then Harrison on his visits would go there and find out that, oh no, Gabby and Mary get along really, really well. And then something happens between Mary and Harrison. The reason I'm saying this is because in the book, he says at one point, he says he made one mistake, and that mistake was described as a kiss between two people who should have known better. Jealousy gives birth to monsters, and that is what I have become. So I'm thinking, he saw the relationship that Mary and Gabby were having, and he with Mary. Afterwards, there was jealousy brewing between Harrison because he hated his wife because she couldn't look after Gabby the way Mary is supposedly looking after Gabby right now. Or Mary got jealous and was like, I want that life. I'm looking after your child already. We have a connection. I love you, Harrison. So let's get rid of your wife. I don't know. Alternatively, he could have kissed the Black Widow. Alternatively, Diane could be the one he kissed, and it has turned him into a monster because Diane said, get rid of your wife, I'll give you all the money you need and become the investor. Because I'm still stuck on the fact that Diane is the investor. I don't know why. I just feel that way. So we don't know. I don't know. But then after all of that, a call comes into Harrison. Remember, Mary has driven away in her red little Mini Cooper, and she just called Harrison and is like, oh my gosh. I think the police know. The police were here interviewing Gabby. I don't know what she told them. And Harrison loses his mind. The interaction between the two of them is very, very hostile. And it's more hostile from his side, and she's very, very scared about what the hell is going on in this particular story. I then wonder, does he like this woman that he's shouting at like this? But then I remembered it's about Gabby, and Gabby is more important than any relationship that Harrison has with any woman, as shown by what has happened with Eden. So I'm thinking maybe Mary isn't as guilty as I would like her to be, but she still acted as Eden Fox. So she's guilty for conspiring with Harrison to pretend that she was Eden Fox, but I don't know what else she could have done also in the situation. And also, I think that Harrison doesn't realize or doesn't know that Mary kissed Carter, because Carter says he kissed this Eden Fox. So I'm not sure that Harrison knows that Carter and Mary did kiss. If he did, he might have a different reaction to Carter, and we haven't seen a jealous reaction towards Carter for kissing Eden Fox, but rather a hostility to his like his littleness, his littleness in relation to him. So because Harrison thinks he's the big boss in the whole wide world, whereas he believes Carter is just Tweedledum. He literally calls Carter Tweedledum. Rude. Not inaccurate, but rude. Chapter 49, we then have a tape transcription between Maddie and Olivia Bird. This is just for her to gather evidence between all the different people in Hope Falls. Birdie then asked Maddie where she was when Eden Fox supposedly jumped, and Maddie's like, bed, I sleep late and only open this place later because people aren't coming in for a drink at breakfast. And then also she's asked if she went to the art exhibition the night before, and she's like, nah. I don't go to that stuff because firstly, I was working, and secondly, even if I wasn't working, I wouldn't go to that thing because I'm not an artsy person. So please, the rest of the people in the town who did go only went for white wine. And she's like, if I really wanted a drink, I could get one here. So I'm not going to some fancy schmancy art exhibition just to get a drink. Afterwards, she explains that old Stu might have gotten confused. He's the kind of person who gets confused about things, but that's because he's old. And that establishes for Birdie that old Stu is an unreliable witness in this particular situation. So Carter might not have lied in his transcription. Old Stu might have just forgotten that he did say that he saw another woman. And he also might have not said he saw the other woman because maybe somebody said he shouldn't say he saw the other woman. I don't know. Or possibly he just forgot. The last thing we find out from this particular tape transcription is the fact that Maddie doesn't really like Birdie, and more so than anything, more visibly obvious is because she believed Carter was supposed to get the promotion that Birdie has, which is ironic because Birdie is higher ranked than the position that she holds right now, but that's not why she's in Hope Falls, not for the position, but for other things, which we'll get to later. And then I think that Maddie might know that Birdie and Carter slept together. And because of that, she might not like the fact that here's the woman who made my brother stray from his marriage. And it's like, you don't know your brother. Your brother's a scummy man, a scummy man. So hold your horses, Maddie, hold your horses. Then we go to chapter 50 where we are back with Birdie. Birdie tells us that she went back to the police station to find out any more information that Carter hasn't essentially relied to her. So she's there looking through the files, trying to get onto the computer, but it's password protected and she doesn't like technology. And so as she's rummaging through the stuff at the police station, Harrison walks in angry because how dare they interview his daughter? How dare they interrupt her care? How dare they? And he goes on and shouting and says, you know that Carter just went and did whatever he wanted to do. You gave me your word, Birdie, that this wouldn't happen. Gabrielle wouldn't be included in this particular investigation. And she goes, yeah, I told him not to do that. Number one, I told him not to do that, but I'll deal with him personally. And then Harrison keeps going on and on about how it's her fault. She couldn't keep Carter in line. And that's why he felt comfortable enough to just go and interview Gabrielle after everything he had said. And Birdie's like, wait a minute. The reason he went to go interview Gabby is so that he can find out more information about your missing wife, the wife that you clearly don't care to find anything out about. I've been trying to call you. I've come to your house multiple times and you have not once come and called me back, except when you find out that somebody was interviewing your daughter. This is not just about your daughter. Your daughter's fine. This is about your missing wife. Why haven't you asked about that? Other people would be desperate for news to find out if their wife is dead or not. You couldn't care less. And that makes you very, very guilty. And it's like, if, and it's like, shut up. We found a body on the beach and do you care? And he's like, no, then why didn't you guys call me to identify her body? But we can't identify. her body based off of what's left of her. And he suddenly becomes like sad. But I think he's sad more that, okay, they found the body. He's seen the body. He doesn't need to see it again. He knows exactly what she looked like. Maybe that's why the color's draining from his face. Afterwards, Carter steps into the police station and is like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Carter, read the fucking room, bro. Read the room. He walks in. He's like, how's everybody going? How's everybody doing? And Bertie goes, dude, if you can't see, things are very tense right now. And I would ask you where you've been all morning, but I know where you've been. You went to go visit Gabrielle after I directly told you not to go. So going forward, you're off the case and you're suspended. And it's like crazy. Chapter 51, we go back to Carter. He is walking on the beach after Bertie did not want to hear a single thing that he wanted to say about what he found out or anything. He was told leave. So he goes out, he walks around town because he doesn't want to go home, because he doesn't really want to be home. He doesn't want to go to the pub because then Maddie will be able to like pry out what actually happened with him. And so he doesn't want to talk to anyone. So instead he walks up to the cliff where Eden Fox was said to have jumped. And now he's looking around and he realizes he hears the keychain. This is the keychain that has the I love you from the moon and back. And he realizes, oh, this is the same keychain that Eden Fox, the one that he was trying to arrest, was showing him when she kept saying, I'm Eden. Why would I have a key to this house if I'm not Eden? And he's like, people are strange. People are strange. You probably are trying to harass that family. And that's what he was saying when he was trying to arrest her. And now he finds the keychain. And then as he's walking around town, he kind of figures certain things out. But as he's figuring all these things out, he starts telling us about how he got married. How he got married was he one night got really excited during that New Year's Eve celebration that happens on the 1st or the 31st of December into the 1st. And he got really drunk. The reason he was celebrating was because he'd recently just bought himself a house in Hope Falls because he'd been saving. Unlike his peers, he had like not been going out. So after he got his house, he was very happy. So he went to party and celebrate. When he wakes up the next morning, forgetting everything that had happened, he realizes there's a girl in his bed. Her name is Jane, and Jane and him had a one-night stand. She gives him her number, but he never calls back. 2 months later, Jane comes to him and says, hey, I've got a bun in the oven, so I want to keep it. He's like, because he was raised to do the right thing. He was like, okay. Then she was like, I want us to get married. He's like, okay. She was like, I want us to move in together. He was like, okay. But ever since then, he's felt like everything just feels wrong. He doesn't feel like this is his life anymore. He's just found himself trapped in this particular situation. But he's doing it because he wants to do the right thing. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. He's shown us that anytime a sad and vulnerable woman comes to him, he's ready to just do anything for them. He's done it with Bertie. He's done it with Eden Fox / Mary. He's done it with his actual wife. He's finding himself in a situation where he just didn't say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be married. We can raise this child, but he wasn't raised like that. He was raised to do the right thing. And the right thing is if you get a girl pregnant, you marry her. That's why he is married. And because he feels trapped in his marriage, he tells us that he's less risk averse to morality. Meaning that he's quite comfortable sleeping with all these women because he's been doing all the right things all his life. Once or twice can he just be allowed to do the wrong thing. And the wrong thing in his head is cheating. So I don't know what the hell is wrong with this guy, but like you lose a lot of respect for this guy by this particular point. I particularly do. So I don't know why you would have any respect for the guy. But afterwards, he says he's glad that Bertie doesn't know. He doesn't know that Bertie knows. Because we know. We know. So Birdie knows, and when he gets home, he goes to say goodnight to his little girl. His wife is making dinner, and she's opened a bottle of wine, and he realizes there are 3 seats prepared for dinner for that night, and he's like, ugh, I don't want to see my mother-in-law. His wife says, I've invited your boss. And he's like, what? She goes, yeah, I've invited your boss because she's new to town and maybe she's lonely, so I've invited her to town, and that's why she's coming to dinner. And Carter freaks out because there's a knock on his door, and obviously it can only be Birdie. In chapter 52, we go back to Birdie. She walks into this house where Carter lives with his wife after shucking and bucking last night. It's wild to be saying that statement. But Birdie walks into their house and notices that there are baby things everywhere. This house is clean, sure, but it's not very tidy because there's so many baby things. And from what we know of Jane, she doesn't work. She's always at home looking after the baby. So she doesn't really care about her appearance. She doesn't really care about how her house looks because she thinks she's creating a home. Oh, cute, DJ. She's very, very cute. And she is like a year younger than Carter, so she's probably like 27. And so now Birdie, a 40-year-old woman, walking into this house, looking at this family, and like, yeah, this is crazy. But she had already come to the house earlier when she was looking for Carter around town because she'd been trying to call him, but he wasn't answering while he was at the manor. But that's simply because there's no signal between the manor and Hope Falls. That's the same thing that OG Eden told us when she was driving from the manor. So that's why when the phone like buzzed, she got the message, but when she tried to call back or send a message, there was no signal. Afterwards, Birdie then sits down and Jane offers Birdie wine and Carter goes, no, she doesn't drink. And afterwards, the baby cries. Mommy goes upstairs, but there's a little baby monitor there, sitting there. And that's how mom heard baby cry. So she leaves the baby monitor there and goes upstairs. As she's going upstairs, Carter goes, please don't tell her. Because you're an asshole, Carter. And then Birdie goes, what shouldn't I tell her? That we shucked and bucked last night, or that you lost your job? And he goes, I lost my job. I thought it was just suspension. She goes, yeah, same thing. But he's a monster sometimes. And then he tells us how, no, but that was a mistake. Instead of me relying this information, I'm going to read it to you guys. Carter says, what happened was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Birdie says, must you lower the bar every time you open your mouth? I meant her, not you. She was a mistake, he says. Has a lifetime of sea air rotted your brain or something? Birdie says. I got married in a hurry. I wasn't in love. We were drunk. We had sex. And you thought your personality was sufficient birth control? Fucking amazing. I love Birdie. Damn it. And then Carter tells us that he did everything for her. So his life looks the way it does for her. And I was like, your wife, the one you don't like, who you think was a mistake. And then he clarifies that no, he did it for his daughter. And then something clicks in my brain. So I read these chapters like twice before I sit here and talk to you guys about it. So the first time I read it, I was like, okay, nothing major. But then I read this line and I was like, okay, everything he's doing is for his little girl. He even talks about how he would protect his little girl, and he understands the need for Harrison to want to protect his little girl. That's why he's so angry at Carter. After this, I'm like, oh, okay. When I reread the chapters and I'm reading about how he's doing everything for her, being Harrison, I was like, oh, this whole story is probably about Gabby. Like, everything else seems like a side effect to this main motivation. But I think the whole story, the central theme to the story is Gabby. Everything people are doing is for Gabby. And anybody who's against the For Gabby movement is taken out. Eden wasn't for Gabby. she was taken out. Mary is for Gabby. She's being used to pose as Eden Fox. Harrison is for Gabby. He's losing his mind, coming to the police station to shout at Carter and Birdie about why they would dare to go and interview his daughter, because anybody against Gabby and the for Gabby movement is gonna have their life ruined. In Harrison's eyes, she's the most important thing. And that's probably the reason his relationship and his marriage crumbled, because of Gabby and the differences that Eden and Harrison had together. After Carter tells us that he's doing this all for his daughter, Birdie then tells us that she likes Carter because there's something likable about a man who loves his children. And he has displayed this. In as much as he's a cheating son of a bitch, he is still a father who loves his daughter, and he's literally doing everything, lying and pretending to care for his wife just because of his daughter. Afterwards, Birdie's like, okay, let's talk about what you found out when you directly disobeyed me. And then Carter goes, I'm so excited. He pulls out the keychain, and then Birdie tells us. He reaches inside his pocket, then puts a silver keychain on the kitchen table. It says, love you to the moon and back, and seems deeply inappropriate given his wife is upstairs. I frown. He flips it over, and now I read the name Eden. He stares at me like a ta-da expression on his face. The reason this is interesting is because Birdie never met Eden. And Birdie knows nothing about this keychain. So when she's like, this is inappropriate if he's giving me a gift in front of his wife, that was really, really funny to me. But over and above that, Birdie's like, I don't understand what's going on. He then goes, okay, wait, let me explain to you what happened with Gabby. He talks about that interaction with Gabby and says there is this lady who looks after Gabby. Her name is Mary Kendall, and this is Mary. So he pulls out a copy of her employee file records, and Birdie looks at it and she goes, wait, isn't that? And then Carter goes, yeah, that looks like Eden, right? He takes his wife's laptop. He types in the search engine, Eden Fox, the artist, and lo and behold, whose face pops up? Mary Kendall as Eden Fox. And they both realize, or rather, Birdie realizes that Mary and Eden Fox are the same person. And then Carter summarizes what he thinks is going on in this particular story. He says, I think Mary was pretending to be Eden Fox. I think the woman I arrested who said that her husband changed the locks when she was out for a run was the real Eden Fox and was telling the truth. I think Mary pretended to be her when she befriended people in the village. I think Mary was pretending to be her at the art gallery. I think Mary was pretending to be her husband's wife, and that Harrison went along with it. And then Birdie says, let me get this straight. You think there was more than one wife? Carter says, yes. Birdie says, and that Harrison and Mary pretended Mary was Eden? Carter says, yes. Crazy, right? It's insane. And then Birdie goes, so where's the real Eden Fox? Carter surmises that he thinks that Birdie was killed by either Harrison or Mary or the both of them. He thinks that Eden Fox was lured to the cliff and was either pushed or tricked into jumping. And then afterwards, Birdie looks at Carter and she's like, I'm very, very proud of him because he's done what we've needed him to do this entire book. And it is to do good police work. And then I had this thought in my notes. We'll see if I put them on screen. But I say, this is how you develop a fucking character. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. The reason I say this, right, is because this is what they did with the story. They made him incompetent. When we met Carter, we hated him. And when I say we, I mean me and everybody who's listening to the story and thinking Carter is the worst cop in the world. When we met him, he was incompetent and he didn't even know it. He had that unconscious unconscious incompetence, and it was disgusting to watch. Afterwards, they put Birdie into the story and they gave him somebody to learn from, somebody with experience. And then afterwards, this person with experience gave him guidance. The guidance was in the form of advice of how to do his job going forward. The story then shows us how he takes the advice that Birdie gave him. The advice was to take initiative and follow your gut. We see him do this. He goes to the manor because he has a gut feeling that Harrison is weird about something with regards to this daughter of his. He takes the initiative. He then follows his gut and goes to the manor. He sees what he sees. He finds out the information that he's found out. He comes back to Birdie and puts everything together, which shows us that we met this man as incompetent. We see him get advice. You see him take advice, and this is what he does with the advice. This is called character development. This is why some characters are written really, really well in certain stories, and some characters are written like crazy, right? They're written like crazy. You can't have somebody who goes incompetent and then suddenly knows how to do their job by the end of the book. I can tell you how Kara became better because the book was written well enough for me to see the development. We see the development. We see that Carter is now able to take the advice that he was given and do his job well. He's not jumping from information to theory. He's not doing that. He's taking the information, following the evidence, and then presenting his case. His case led him to realizing that the real Eden that he thought he met wasn't actually a real Eden because he followed his gut. He took initiative. He did what he was supposed to do. He was developed well as a fucking character. This is what I'm talking about when I say this is how you write really good characters. Alice Feeney! Alice Feeney! I don't know, man. You've done your big one, girl. You've done your big one. After Carter's big revelation, Birdie tells us why she came back to Hope Falls. It wasn't to say goodbye to her mother's grave, her granny's grave, to say goodbye to the place that she grew up in. No. Birdie tells us that she is in Hope Falls to do what she does really, really well. And that's her job. And her job includes her getting justice for people who can't get it for themselves, putting wrongs right. Flip! The writing in this book is superb. It's amazing. I love it. And to end off this batch of chapters, Birdie then tells us that nah. Let's not let that guy stew for too long. Let's not let Harrison have a chance to think up more lies because he knows now. Or he might not know because he wasn't really listening to Mary on the phone. He might not know that the police are on his ass now. The police are on his ass. And Birdie goes, let's go see Harrison Wolf now. Carter's like, now? She goes, yeah. It's late at night. It's time for dinner with the wife. But like, they're about to leave the house to go and interview or I guess interrogate Harrison Wolf. What a good story, man. What a good fucking story. What a good story. So in today's final thoughts, I'm not going to give you theories. I've told you everything that I think is happening so far. I'm just going to give you my updated list of suspects and why I think they are as suspicious as they look. And we're going to go from the most suspicious to the somewhat least suspicious of these people on the list. Right now, my list only has 3 people, and you guys can probably guess who the 3 people are. Unfortunately, Gabby is not on my list because, like, the girl is in a mental unit, and I don't think she has the krach to kind of get up and go push her mom off a cliff after the mom drove away. I don't think she has that krach. So let's go through our list. Currently at number 1 is Harrison Wolf. I think he's just trying to get rid of his wife for the For Gabby movement. I genuinely think he's trying to get rid of his wife for the For Gabby movement. Everything else, every other motivation is secondary to that one. And I truly believe that's why he wanted to get rid of Eden, his wife. Secondary reasons might possibly be because somebody promised to give him money if he got rid of his wife. Possibly. I'm still thinking that's a huge possibility, but I don't know. I don't know yet. Next on my list is Mary Kendall. I have a few reasons for Mary. I have 5 reasons for Mary and why I think Mary is like number 2 on this particular thing. Number 1, I think that Mary is obsessed with Harrison Wolf. I think she's obsessed with Harrison Wolf, and the kiss that Harrison and Mary might have shared might have been the beginning of her lava-davies, of her lava-davies. I don't know. She also loves Gabby, so that might have been like the first reason. She loves Harrison, she loves Gabby, and so she was like, this is my family now. Like, what you guys gonna do about it? This is my family now. Next, I think she would do anything for Eden's life. Eden is living in Spyglass. She's probably formed a connection with Spyglass, given the fact that she'd been looking after an elderly woman who lived at the coast. I really think that's Olivia Bird, which is the grandmother. So I think that Mary wanted Eden's life, which included her kid, her husband, and the house. I think the house is also central to the mystery of the story. I also think that Mary killed Olivia Bird, the grandmother. I don't know if it was for Thanatos. I don't know if it was to get close to the daughter. I don't know why she would have done this. Was it to get Harrison to move to her forth? I don't know. I just know that I think that Mary killed Olivia Bird, the grandmother. I also think that she definitely conspired with Harrison to act as Eden Fox, and I don't know why she did that. I think the reasons that I've mentioned so far might be reasons enough for her to agree to pretend to be Eden Fox to real Eden. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And the fact that Harrison went along with it, there must be a reason why he would go along with it. And I'm still stuck on the fact that he might be blackmailed. I don't know. I'm just throwing around theories. I could be wrong. I'm okay with that. And lastly, I definitely think that Mary is definitely the person, or possibly the most likely person, to have been the pusher for Eden. So I think that Mary pushed Eden down the cliff. And then last person on our list is Diane Harris. I still think that Diane Harris is still a credible suspect. I think she might want Harrison as her 4th husband. She might want to invest in Thanatos, seeing how big it could get, because they're about to become profitable. If Thanatos goes to market, it will definitely become profitable. Some people want to find out when they're going to die. And I think that alone would be a great reason for somebody to want to invest in such a company, and maybe even take it over after he is as husband number 4. And she's gotten away with it 3 times. I definitely think she got rid of her husbands as the Black Widow, so I wouldn't be surprised if she kills Harrison too. The police in this town have shown that they're not worried about doing real police work, so I wouldn't be surprised if she thinks she can get away with it for a 4th time. This is me assuming that Diane been killing them husbands dead herself. Yeah, I think those are all my reasons. For the people I most suspect. So number 1 is Harris, number 2 is Mary, number 3 is Diane Harris. Okay, my camera died there for a second. If you've liked what I've done so far, like the video, don't forget to comment what your theories are, don't forget to subscribe, and share the video with all your friends. Okay, bye. Mary, yeah. Whilst we're, okay, also there's an other woman, and also there's an Eden War. Birdie, then afterwards.